Hello and welcome. I'm Jennifer Shlomovich, and I help busy women simplify plant-based living so they can improve their health, save time, and feel supported, even if their family isn't on board. Here on the Confident Vegan channel, you will find insightful interviews with inspiring vegans, practical tips for plant-based living, and empowering conversations about what it really means to live in alignment with your values. I am also the co-host of That Vegan Morning Show with Kimberly Winters of the Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. You can start your day the vegan way and watch us live every Monday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern on YouTube at That Vegan Morning Show. Today, my special guest is Anna Balser, who is the program manager at Woodstock Farm Sanctuary in High Falls, New York. She holds an MS in Anthrozoology from Canisius College, where she primarily focused her studies on sanctuary regulation, public policy, and animal ethics. She loves helping people question their assumptions about veganism and think more deeply about their relationships with other species. In her free time, she enjoys experimental vegan baking and eating, road trips, and puzzles. Welcome, Anna.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you here today. I've covered a lot of angles of veganism on my channel, from food to talking about animals and just everything in between. Um, and I realized I haven't had a chance to really explore more in depth what animals experience when they are part of animal agriculture. And so I'm really happy to have you here today to shed more light on that. But before we do that, can you share a little bit more about your vegan journey?
Yeah, definitely. So before I became vegan, I was a vegetarian for quite a long time. And I it wasn't something that I ever thought about very deeply, I guess. I didn't I don't come from a family that is big on eating animals in general, although they are not vegan. But so I just kind of grew up in sort of a not a big meat eating lifestyle, I guess. And so when I became a vegetarian, it was just like easy, no thought involved. And I was just kind of on that road for quite a long time. I gave basically no thought to where dairy and eggs came from. And and during that time, I ended up working in a dog shelter. And one of my coworkers there was vegan. And she kind of started telling me, information about the dairy industry, information about the egg industry. And being in that environment of dog rescue, it really started making the gears of speciesism turn in my mind, although I didn't have the term for it at that time. But I just kind of started looking around and thinking like, it's so weird that, people are rescuing dogs but eating other animals like in the same building. And so kind of with that thought and then this coworker, both of those seeds sort of being planted at a similar time, um, that kind of started me down the road of being vegan. And I would say I definitely was sort of like plant-based dieting for a bit before like my why and the reason like fully solidified. But once it did, I was just like, oh, well, now that I know how the dairy industry works, especially, but also how the egg industry works, like there's no going back. Like you can't unknow that stuff once you know it. Um, yeah, so that's the short version of the story.
Yeah, I can relate to that. We have that cognitive dissonance, right? Because some animals are seen as pets, right? Or other types of stories that you see where people are upset, like the sunfish story that happened earlier in the year, right? The sunfish, and everyone was talking about the sunfish and really having all this compassion for the sunfish. But then they're probably going, eating seafood later that day, or something along those lines. And yeah, it's, people, cats and dogs are, seen separately from other animals. And it takes some time to really get to that. It's kind of like the Matrix. Like my journey for veganism started with health. Like I had a dairy sensitivity that
Mm-hmm.
I just started developing. Like I was having issues, and I was like, you know what? I was reading how dairy can cause a lot of inflammation and issues, and I felt so much better being off of it. And everyone I talk to always talks about how much better they feel just giving up dairy. Because
Yeah.
it's not for us, it's for baby cows.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, and then I started looking up dairy-free recipes and finding a lot of vegan recipes and finding forks over knives and all the whole food plant-based stuff. And I did want to eat healthier. And it took me a couple of years. There was a part of me that like wanted to be vegan, but my family was not going to do that. And I just kind of went on this journey of watching some documentaries and getting cookbooks and until it finally the rest of it kind of clicked for me with the animals. And I was and once you can't unknow the things that you find out. And so yeah, it started out for health, but my commitment was for the animals. And that's why I'm on this mission because I want to create the type of support that I wish I had as a vegan, like non-judgmental, sharing different stories, sharing all the different aspects out there so people can have those seeds to find their own journey to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think having the animals as your reason, I think, for me at least, I think that's the only way that I could live this lifestyle. Like if I was just doing it for me, it would be so um, tempting and easy, honestly. To say like,
Yeah,
oh, I'll just, cheat day or whatever. But once you really understand what the animals go through, you just kind of lose your desire for any of that stuff.
definitely. And however long it takes, I always say this to people, however long it takes you, and it took me a couple of years, it's okay. At least you're thinking differently. At
Hmm.
least you're starting to be more intentional and you're starting to question and you're not living life on autopilot. So I feel like wherever someone is on their journey, like that should be honored because eventually, if you have that intention, eventually you're going to get there.
Totally. And it's like it's a lifetime of conditioning that you're
Yeah.
trying to undo. So yeah, it can take time for sure.
Yeah, definitely, which is crazy. You don't realize it until you start unconditioning yourself.
Mhm.
So, what inspired you to get into the work that you're doing now with the Woodstock Animal Sanctuary or Woodstock Farm Sanctuary?
In 2020, I finished my master's degree. And so I knew that I wanted to work in the field of animal advocacy and specifically, on behalf of farmed animals. And so I was really excited and eager to do that. And I think, over the course of my education and just my own reading and everything, um, I just realized like the depth of information that had been purposely hidden from me and from everybody about our food system and what non-human animals go through and just like the extent of the exploitation. It just felt endless.
Hmm.
Um, and and I was so like angry about that and just kind of indignant about it and I just feel like I felt like then and still feel now that if people knew the things that were being kept from them so that these corporations could make money off of them that they also would want to make a change in their lifestyle and choose not to participate in this immense system of exploitation. And so, a sanctuary is such a unique environment for education um, because you get to meet the victims of this system. Um,
Hmm.
and a lot of people, it's their first time ever meeting a pig up close or a cow up close. And so it's a really powerful uh, way to educate people. And yeah, I wanted to be part of it. And to participate and do what I could to, um, keep the movement going forward. And yeah, I feel very lucky to have ended up here for sure.
It sounds like really important work that you're doing because, yeah, like you said, most people don't think about where their food's coming from. Everything's prepackaged in the grocery store, so it's like you know it's chicken, but you're not making that connection, and if you can't see your food being prepared before it's in the supermarket, then maybe that's something we shouldn't be eating, right?
Hmm.
Right? There's something much more darker to all of that, and again, the way things are marketed and just the way it's been passed down for generations of just this is how we do things, right?
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be that way. And I think it's great when people have the opportunity. I have not had a chance to visit any farm sanctuary yet, but I definitely want to come stop by yours during the summer. It's not too far from me. So definitely something I plan to do, and bring my non-vegan family with me.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because yeah, you're looking into the eyes of this animal that has its own identity. And I think, a lot of humans just downplay the fact that they have an identity, that they do have a right to just live their lives because of just, again, the narrative of especially like beef and chicken and pork, eggs and dairy have just had in mainstream society for so long.
No, definitely. And I think that's the other aspect of showing people um, what farmed animals are like in an environment where they are treated as the individuals that they are, and how different they might be from, what someone would assume. Because if you're used to kind of encountering farmed animals in an environment where they are being
Hmm.
exploited, they're not allowed to make choices. They're taken from their families. There's no individuality in that environment. Um, and so I love being able to show people, when a cow is in a situation where they can make choices about who they spend time with and who they don't, just like the different social dynamics that emerge, and how much personality all of the residents here have. I think it's really surprising for
Hmm.
people to see that, and really powerful.
Yeah, I'm sure. And what would you like viewers to know about the residents at the Woodstock Farm Sanctuary?
Um, I mean, I guess that is a big part of it, that each one of the residents here is an individual, and they all have their own thing going on. They have their own preferences, their own personality. Um, they all kind of choose to spend their day a little bit differently.
Hmm.
And and it's a place here at the sanctuary where they're allowed to do that, and they are treated as individuals. And I think everyone here, they're just they're more than you might think they are if you haven't spent a lot of time um, with farmed animals. There's more depth, and um, more going on internally than we've been led to believe, I think.
Yeah, and it's kind of like when you have a pet cat or dog, right? I've grown up having cats and I have a cat now, and all the cats that I've had in my life, they've all had very different personalities and preferences, and dogs too, right? They have their favorite foods and their favorite toys and their favorite sleeping spots. And why are these things only limited to these types of animals?
Hmm. Yeah, it's strange how we've drawn that line so sharply. And I think, the sort of labels that we assign to non-human animals is like food animal and companion animal.
Yeah.
It seems so silly when you when you get to see the similarities between the animals that we call companions and animals that we use and exploit for food.
Mhm.
And I think you can see that here, especially in our bunny barn, our rabbit barn,
Aw.
because rabbits are um, they're an animal that many people, I would say probably most people that I encountered, they see them as a companion animal, as a pet. But we also have rabbits in the barn who have been rescued while they were being raised for people to eat. And so,
Mm.
and so I think it is that's kind of one of my favorite moments on our education tours is kind of, showing people all of our rabbits in the barn and kind of letting them see that label of food animal versus companion animal is completely arbitrary. It doesn't mean anything. To the rabbits especially, like they're all just trying to live their life with their friends, live in peace, be happy. They don't know that they were labeled a certain way. It has no bearing on who they actually are as an individual.
Yeah, very true. And they also get exploited around Easter time too, right? A lot of times people will buy a rabbit for Easter and then they realize after a week or two there's a lot of work involved in a rabbit. I had a rabbit many years ago growing
Oh,
up, and yeah, there's a lot of work, involved with them. And, after the novelty wears off, right? A lot of times they just get dumped off somewhere or released out into the wild.
yeah. Yeah, we have two, our most recent rabbit rescues, Glinda and Elphaba,
Aw,
rescued. I
love the
know, it's so
names.
sweet. Yeah, they were dumped in the woods. It's unfortunately a really common thing that happens. But yeah, like the impulse purchasing of rabbits and also ducklings and chicks.
Yeah.
We see the consequences of all of that here every spring for sure.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? They don't stay ducklings and chicks forever. And they only have a short span of when they're that small because they grow relatively quickly.
Yeah,
Like
they do. Mhm.
right now there's geese all around me and like their babies were like tiny little fluff balls a few weeks ago and now they're like already a lot bigger. So
Yeah.
they grow fast.
But people, I think, just they don't think beyond like the immediate
Yeah.
gratification of, oh, they're so cute, they're so small, and then you're like, oh, I bought someone who's going to live for quite a while and who has complex needs and yeah, it's I mean every sanctuary and rescue organization sees that in the spring. Just
Yeah, I'm sure there's like a huge uptick of that.
mhm.
Um, that's really sad. And and I'm sure, amongst all the other types of stories that you get to hear about and witness with your residents. What are some stories that you would like to share for viewers about some specific residents there?
I mean, there are so many. We have about 300 residents at the sanctuary, so there are, so many
Wow.
stories to tell. But our newest rescues started with a little pregnant goat named Peach.
Oh,
And she recently gave birth to her baby, who we named James. But
like
Peach's
James
story,
and the Giant Peach.
you got it. Uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
cute.
yeah, they're such a sweet family. But Peach, she came to us kind of via another sanctuary who originally had taken her in after she had been hit by a car. Uh,
Oh,
and so, unfortunately, somebody purposely swerved their car to hit her. She was on the side of the road. We still don't
wow.
know what she was doing on the side of the road or where she came from, but somebody, luckily a really kind person, saw this happen, saw her be hit by the car, and was able to bring her to another sanctuary, Inverloca Sanctuary, in Pennsylvania, and they took her in, but they weren't able to take her for her whole life, which is An important factor to consider when you're rescuing anybody is to think, do I have the resources to care for this individual for their entire life? So
Mhm.
we ended up taking Peach, and she was pregnant, heavily pregnant, like close to full term. And unfortunately, her hip was dislocated when she was hit by the car. So she
Oh,
really had gone through so much in a short period of time, and she's a very young goat herself. And so she has been living in the med barn. So we were on baby watch for quite a while, and then finally, she had little baby James, and luckily, like all went well. We were definitely nervous for her, but yeah, now it's the two of them together, and where she came from, I have to assume it was a farm. They would not have been able to stay together for their whole lives. And now here in Sanctuary, James is never going to know anything except for love from people and love from his mom. And it's yeah, really, really special to see them together and just know that, things were really scary for Peach and uncertain. And now things are just going to keep getting better for them. Yeah.
I love that. It's very upsetting when you hear that someone would purposely try to hit a goat or any animal for that matter. But how lucky for both of them that this person saw them, saw what happened, and was able to then connect them to somebody who then was able to connect them to you. And poor Peach has had this traumatic life, but now she can enjoy motherhood and live her life with her baby, and that's a beautiful thing. And all animals should have these rights for them.
Yeah, 100%. Like so many of our rescues are involved just like a bystander or just somebody who happens to see um an animal in a distressing situation, or they see someone who's escaped from a farm just running around, on the side of the road. And yeah, they're just like kind people who decide to do the right thing and seek out a compassionate solution when they're looking for a home rather than just saying like, oh, I'll just send them back to where they came from, or
Yeah.
you know.
That's really good that people do that. I've heard that cows have a personality like a puppy. Is that true? Like
I hear that a lot. I mean, I probably some cows are like more puppy-like than others. I feel like the cows
Mhm.
here at the sanctuary, I would kind of compare their personality like more to a cat's personality, where like
Okay.
they're super nice, like they are friendly, but kind of like on their own terms.
Hmm.
And But they definitely will. I see like where the comparison comes from, because like they can definitely get the zoomies, especially when they're younger, just like bouncing around in the pasture. They can be really, really silly for sure.
Oh, that's fun. I would love to see cows with zoomies.
It's fun. You don't want to be in the middle of the pasture when it happens. You want to be
I'm
on the other
sure.
side.
I'm sure it's very different than when your cat or your dog has a zoomies and
Yeah.
they're running around. What about the chicken residents there? How many chicken residents do you have?
We have more chicken residents than anybody else. I believe chicken residents probably around 150. I'm not
Wow.
feeling super positive on that number, but a lot.
And what are the
Um,
chickens' personalities like?
they're highly, highly variable, I would say.
Mhm.
Some are super friendly and like they'll sit on your lap, perch on your shoulder.
Aw.
Super, yeah, just like super engaging. Some are more like they just want to hang out with their chicken pals, and not so much with people. Um,
Hmm.
but I think chickens are typically like they're pretty curious, so they're always kind of pecking around and exploring their environment and seeing anything new. they always want to know what's going on in their yard. They're kind of always on patrol in a way, especially roosters.
Yeah.
Their role is really, to keep the group safe. So they're always vigilant for sure.
Well, that's great that they can have that space where they can have their own like natural group interactions
Mhm.
and have that socialization because they don't have that. First of all, they don't have any space in factory farming at all. And then of course then there's the free range argument, but then you're raising something, giving it a peaceful life just to kill it like that. How is that humane in itself? Like,
Yeah, and I think, especially in the egg industry, like those labels of free range or cage free, all of that, it's really more marketing than like an actual upgrade to the chicken. Like their experience um on an egg farm is not meaningfully changed with those labels. So I think that's really important for people to know. And then chickens who are used in the meat industry, they're a different breed than chickens used in the egg industry, and they're bred to get really, really large, really, really quickly.
mhm.
And so, when they're sent to slaughter, they're about 6 weeks old. Um,
Hmm.
and so they're really babies, still. Like their bodies are large, but they're still babies. And yeah, they spend their very short lives just packed together on basically warehouse floors. Um, yeah, horrible.
Yeah, it really, really is. Um, yeah, and just again to get so large. I've seen documentaries on how chickens are raised to be food and how, it's just like a whole production line where you got
Hmm.
machines moving them around and all these different things. And
Hmm.
again, even and then if like the whole free range eggs are very big right now. Like a lot of people are getting their own chickens. I see that's like the latest trend on like Instagram and TikTok, right? Are people buying their hens and having them lay eggs? And I'm sure there's a lot of other stuff around that goes beyond what they're showing on their neatly, edited reels.
Yes, definitely. I mean, yeah, backyard birds and in particular roosters who are coming from backyard flocks are our most common um, call or email that we get from people who are trying to kind of offload their unwanted backyard birds. And so,
Mhm.
there's so much to say about backyard birds in the egg industry. I feel like we could probably do an entire episode just on that. But I will say, kind of regardless of the setting that a chicken who's bred for their eggs, regardless of the setting that they're living in, they've been bred to lay so many more eggs than they ever would
Mhm.
naturally. And that breeding just causes suffering for them, like fundamentally. It doesn't really matter like how fancy the coop is, how big the
Yeah.
space is, like laying the number of eggs that they've been bred to lay is painful to them and harmful for them. So yeah, I mean, no one wants to say that in their TikTok about
Right.
their backyard flock for sure.
No, and then what
Maybe
happens
they
when they
don't
keep
know.
what's that?
I said, and maybe they don't even know. Um,
Right. And they probably don't, right? I think a lot of times people just jump into a trend. They get
mhm,
the basic information, and then once they're fully in it, right? And then after a while, like especially, and then they get older and they're not going to have the same level of egg production.
mhm.
So, what are you going to do with this chicken now? Are you going to still treat it with love, part of the family, or are you? So, I'm sure, there's a lot of ugly things on all of that. What are some of the challenges that you experience in your work at the sanctuary?
Well, there are definitely a lot of challenges in sanctuary work in general. I guess for me specifically, in my job that involves a lot of working with the public and educating the public. It's just trying to work against people's really deeply held beliefs and convictions, and just trying to always find new ways in to try and reach people because everyone's different. Like a message that works for one person is going to be like repellent to another,
Yeah.
and vice versa. And so trying to find different ways to reach people and give them this information in a way that will actually resonate with them, and lead to long-term change for them. So that's just kind of an evergreen challenge. But I would say, like, for the sanctuary in general, the challenges are that, I mean, the work never stops. It doesn't matter what the weather is like. It doesn't matter if it's a holiday. It doesn't matter what is going on in your life in general. Like, the animals need care every single day. And so the work just never stops. Yeah, I think that's something. I think sanctuary life can be very like idealized, and it can seem like so like fun and sweet, and it is those things also, but it's
Yeah.
really hard work all the time. And then right now, funding is a challenge. I think
Mhm.
there's sort of a sense in our movement recently that sanctuaries like aren't as important, and don't really um, deserve the funding that some other organizations do. And that's tough because so many of the stories that really resonate with people, those all come from sanctuaries. Those,
Yeah.
the stories of the animals that I think lead to change for people. Um, and then just the challenge of caring for farmed animals in general is that you're just fighting against the way that they've been bred every step of the way. So for us, we were founded in 2004. And so at this point, we have quite an elderly population of residents. Just in general, we kind of skew older. And so yeah, as they age, the problems that they have because of the way that they've been bred, or
Hmm.
the industry just kind of get worse. And it's tough. It's tough to see that and just know that if they hadn't been exploited in that way, then they wouldn't be having such a difficult time in their old age. Um, yeah.
What are some of the issues that you see because of the breeding that they've had for the industry?
So, a lot of it is like mobility issues and arthritis. So, because it's kind of just like a general principle that any animal who is raised for consumption, they're bred to get very large very, very quickly so that they can be killed at a young age. So,
Mhm.
like the chickens who we talked about, they're kind of the most extreme example at 6 weeks old, but turkeys are like 3.5, 4.5 months. Pigs are about 6 months. Cows like around 18 months. And all of those are like just a fraction of their natural lifespan. And so they're bred to get really, really large in this short amount of time. And if they are, allowed to live past that really short uh, timeline that they would have in the industry, they keep growing larger, and it's like their bodies just aren't made to live that long in that state. And so it takes special diets, a lot of care, medication, observation, uh,
Mhm.
to keep them like moving comfortably, and feeling good as they get older. I think that's probably the most common one that we'll see. But then like there are also a lot of chronic illnesses that are common like on dairy farms, especially, and those you kind of see those get worse with age as well.
Yeah, and Thanks for sharing all that. It's really sad that they were bred to not live long.
Mhm.
And now because they are given this opportunity to live a long life, they have these issues now because they were genetically altered in some way to, live a short life.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the industry is like they're only thinking about them for that short amount of time that they
Yeah.
have them, and yeah, it's really kind of up to sanctuaries to learn about farmed animals as they age, and it's like a new field, I guess, like
Mhm.
veterinary care for older farmed animals. And so it's definitely like a collaborative process with us and the vets that we work with. And then we definitely are always kind of sharing information and receiving information from other sanctuaries too, just kind of, trying different things and just trying to see what works. Um,
Yeah, wow. That's thanks for sharing that because I never really thought about that before, but it makes sense based on, again, they're basically being born to die, and that's just a terrible thought. Which is, as frustrating as vegans is like, why can't other people see? Which is why sanctuary work is so important because it gives people that opportunity. Most people are in big cities and or just in living in an area where they're not necessarily around farm animals and and in an environment where they're actually looking at the farm animals for the individuals that they are. Like if you're at, you're driving down the road, you just see a group of cows, right? Like these, you're providing people an opportunity to see that these animals have an identity. They have feelings, they have preferences, they have chicken pals, like you had mentioned before, right? And so why shouldn't they be allowed to have those different things? Um, what has surprised you the most about your work at the sanctuary?
Um, a lot, I mean, a lot of things. I can think of like so many like small, silly things that I've noticed. I'm like, oh, I never really thought about that, but it's that way. But I think like a lot of just the behaviors and kind of the lifestyles, I guess, of the residents. Like
Mhm.
it's one thing to know intellectually um that a pig is really smart. People say, oh, a pig is as smart as a 3-year-old or whatever they say. Like you can know that in your mind, but then to see that kind of play out in person over time is just a totally different thing. And so
Mhm.
I think I continually find myself surprised by just like the complexity of the social relationships. How groups can kind of shift and change over time. I think the strong family and like biological family and chosen family bonds that we see with the residents here, it's really powerful and it's different. It's different to see it in person than it is to just hear about it or read about it. Um, and yeah, I'm always surprised by what everybody's up to and just like the little quirks that they have, the preferences that they have. Yeah, there's so much more um, than you expect, I think. And I think, with Sanctuary, this is again something that like I guess I knew intellectually, but just living it's just kind of a bittersweet cycle in Sanctuary. We rescue somebody, they live their whole life here, and ideally they pass away peacefully, at an old age. Like that's the goal that we have here.
Mhm.
But with 300 residents, it's, you have to say goodbye to your friends like a lot more than you would like to. And so it's definitely a bittersweet sort of cycle to be in. Um, And then, we rescue somebody new, like Peach and James, and that brings so much joy and kind of hope into the cycle. And so we have that as well. And yeah, it's definitely an emotional, not a roller coaster, but it's an emotional journey here for sure.
I'm sure it is, especially, you get attached to the residents there and but at least they're getting this quality of life they would have never have had. First of all, they're
Mhm.
having a life, right? They wouldn't even have a life. And whatever time they have on the sanctuary, they've been able to have this meaningful life. They've been able to enjoy, they've been able to make friends and have an impact showing people that, there's more to a cow or a chicken or a goat, right, than food and dairy and eggs and all of these different things. And bunnies, they're not just some cute little fuzzy prop, right, for Easter. And yeah, people do eat them. I've been in stores and you sometimes see packaged rabbit meat, and I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, wow. Well, this has been so nice having you here, Anne. I feel like we can talk about like so many different things on here. There's just so many layers to this, but I'm just really happy to have you here today to shed more light on just the life of an animal that is raised for food, or just used as props. So it's just really great having you here talking about all of this. What are some ways that viewers can help support the farm?
Woodstock Farm Sanctuary is a nonprofit organization, so we rely on donations to operate and to rescue animals and give them the lifelong care that they receive here. And so our Partners in Rescue program is our monthly donor group, really lovely group of people. And that monthly support just allows us to make plans really and to know that we have support to keep on rescuing rescuing animals who are in need and and feeling confident that we'll be able to give them that lifelong care that
Hmm.
we're promising them. Um, and Partners in Rescue also, they hear about our rescues before everybody else. So it's kind of the inside circle there. And then I definitely want to encourage people who are in the area or in New York City to come and visit, take a tour. We do public tours on Saturdays all through the summer and into the fall. And so, yeah, if you've never been here or if you've never been to a sanctuary, it really is a great experience to be able to meet the residents up close and learn their stories. Um, and just following the work is also it also really helps, like the more people who see the work that we're doing, hopefully, the more who will want to support, but also the more people who will be impacted by these stories and hopefully, make a change in their own life too.
That's really great. And yeah, and I'm sure too, like there's the general care that you have to plan for, and then there's the, medical emergencies that probably pop up. Having 300 residents, I'm sure, and especially as they're aging, or if somebody new comes in, like Peach, right?
Mhm.
Like there's that probably costs additional money that wasn't planned on. So
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
great. I'll include the website to the sanctuary in the notes below this video. So anyone who wants to check it out and learn more can do so. Oh, and one quick question about the Saturday tours. Do you have to register for those in advance?
Yes, thank you for asking. Yep, you can get tickets online on our website. And yeah, I recommend getting those in advance, especially in the summertime. It tends to fill up before the day of. So if you're really set on coming, definitely get your tickets online.
Nice. And is
We
there a cost?
Yep. So it's $20 for adults. Kids 3 and up are 15, and then $5 for under 3. And we do at 10 a.m. we do a tour that's specifically for kids to kind of learn what a sanctuary is and kind of meet the residents an educational, but maybe not as intense with the industry facts.
Right.
Kind of like
But
a more gentle introduction to what Sanctuary is all about, basically.
which is still impactful, right? Because it's helping these kids make that connection
Mhm.
of what is in the grocery store is not just something, in the grocery store. It's a
Definitely.
life as
Yeah.
well. So that's great. And how long are the tours last?
The regular tours are about 90 minutes. Kids tours a little bit shorter than that.
Sure.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
sounds great. I am hoping to be able to do that this summer. It's definitely
Yeah.
on my list to do
We
for
would love
sure.
to have you. That would be really fun.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Anna, thanks again for stopping by. Is there a way that people can connect with you if they have any other questions?
Um, you can connect with the Sanctuary on social media. If you have
Okay.
any questions, they will find their way to me. So that's
Okay.
just at Woodstock Sanctuary everywhere. Yeah.
Great. I'll include all of that in the notes below. All right. Well,
Awesome.
thanks again for stopping by and having this really great conversation. It was nice having you. And I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.